Okay, so written up the exploration, part 3, analysis. And this is what they should have, right? Pretty straightforward. And this includes the, this is what's included in their analysis. So the paragraph summary in a paragraph with some interpretation, table graph, and descriptive stats and inferential statistics. What I'll do here just for a review is provide students with a look at the checklist, and then they can just self-assess how they're doing so far. And then, yeah, they can figure out, okay, this is what I've done, this is what I've got left to do. And the checklist there might just give them an idea of what they have to include in their IA. And yeah, it's just a quick review. Now, I promise, I'm not making a sales pitch here, but I did try and write this chapter so it's spelled out step by step really clearly in the guide. And so I would remind students to be using that and going back to that information, and also to be asking you questions. So many students they just make basic mistakes because they didn't pay attention to the instructions, they didn't ask questions, they weren't sure of what to do, so they just did what, they just went ahead and did what they thought. And you see these really basic mistakes in the first drafts, and you're going, oh, if you just had have asked, or if you just had have read, you would have missed it. So I just think this is a good time to remind students about that. Right, read the instructions, ask questions. An activity in the files there's an example analysis, and they have to go through and see what mistakes they can find. I think this sometimes, being able to spot mistakes is a more engaging task than asking students to grade an example. I would suggest their structure: start off with the summary, go to table, graph, inferential statistics, and then kind of like a final conclusion about their summary. And again, you can see how I've done it in my example in the files. This is just quoting from the rubric, okay, and so this is what they need to do. You could have a think, pair, here, share for using statistics at some point in the lesson, where, again, why are they calculating them? What are they trying to do here? And if we understand the why, they're going to do a better job of the what. Okay, and then we can just, towards the end of the lesson, put this up as a checklist and make sure, right, are you guys, have you got all this stuff in there? You'll see here there's quite a bit here to go over. They can just refer to the checklist on the files if they wanted to. Okay, I've erred on the side of having more information on these slides than less. Obviously you can delete it, amend it as you like. By the end of the lesson, they should have their first draft of their analysis. That's what they need. Okay, you're probably going to find that, in my experience, about half the students aren't keeping up with this pace, and they're going to have more work to do at home. And then how much extra class time you give just depends on so many factors, right? Like, your scheduling, timetabling, things like that. So now we're done the analysis, up to part 4, the evaluation. So we'll look at that next.